To mark the end of 2024, my friend Amber and I had a beach fire together. We've been friends since high school, and so a lot of the time when we're together, we end up falling into deep conversations where we're reflecting on our own growth and our own journeys. So on New Year's Eve, whilst the night darkened and our fire gave us warmth, we had such a heartwarming chat about friendship, growth, and learning to be more open.
We've got a roaring fire!
And I think I become less fearful of not having a partner in life because of the quality of my friendship.
Honestly, game changer.
It's I think completely transformed me going into adulthood.
Yeah.
Is the quality of relationships that I am foraging
for friendships.
Foraging for friendship.
Yeah, I feel like those, and I feel sorry. So before in my life, it felt like those sorts of connections, it felt so scarce. And there's not many people that will get me, or people that I can have chemistry with. But now it feels so abundant, and my life feels so much more full of love and full of the opportunity for those connections.
And support.
I think it's from knowing myself more.
Because you also know what you value.
Yeah,
you also know what...
And you see each other.
And
mirror each other.
Exactly.
And I feel like my YouTube has had a big part to play in that.
I can completely see how it's deepened you, because the difference I think for you and what you're doing, this is a theory, completely can be wrong, but I feel like when you were in high school, when you were younger, you really struggled with depth. You almost kind of shied away from it. I feel like I never really got to really know how you thought about stuff. And I probably also didn't know how to ask the right questions for you to open up in that way. But I felt like you really struggled with being really dropping down your guard and being close to people. You did so many things on your own, but in a way that was so uniquely you. And then I feel
creating my own world, but I wasn't opening.
Yeah, you were doing it all, but you weren't sharing it.
I had my whole inner world, and it was as lively as it is now, but I had no windows.
No, and that's so you were like a lady painting on the walls, but with no windows. You were just going crazy. And so for me, I think the coolest thing was when you started doing that, you had to explain the depth rather than show them, or they already knew it, or it was to people that had no context. It felt like you just opened up to relationships and people that had no idea who you were or what you've created or what you've done, and you had to really show them who you wanted and who you were.
I feel just getting more comfortable with expressing myself and talking. Because I would always express myself to myself, reading back my journals. I had all the feelings, all the emotion, but I didn't know how to express myself because I didn't have any opportunities in my life to do that. I didn't have those relationships with my mom, and I felt so people wouldn't understand if I tried to. I didn't even know how to explain things to myself.
You had the feelings, but you didn't know how they.
And so deep and so strong, and when you don't understand why you're feeling like that, and it's is everyone feeling like this, or should this be affecting me this much? Yeah, it's just really
a lot of questions. Yeah. But I feel like that was that age too, where just no one knew how to. Literally had to verbalize what the fuck was going.
First time on this earth, we're literally just figuring it out.
Literally,
and still are.
Oh yeah.
And every time we do something, we're doing it for the first time. Or love, date someone new, even if you dated before, you're dating this person.
Exactly.
Doing everything for the first time, so give yourself grace.
I started the year awash in a sea of inspiration and creativity. I was dreaming up visions for my future self, and I felt such a burst of effervescence within. On the 1st of January, I wrote in my journal, "So strongly feeling the possibility of it all right now." When you feel so close to tasting and touching the richness that the world offers, and it all feels so palpable and exciting. I felt like there was so much I wanted to do at the start of the year. So many things I wanted to create, so many projects I wanted to sink into, and I wanted to do everything at once. I had to continually remind myself that we can do anything, but not everything. I stayed consistent with using the yearly planner I created on Xtiles, and breaking my monthly goals down into weekly goals really helped to ease my mind and made me feel less overwhelmed by everything I wanted to do. I want to create like an Instagram space for scrapbooking and journaling and sharing playlists and inspiration. I am trying to create a logo. I painted this and I put it into Illustrator and I've turned it into this. And I'm happy with these colors. I really love this green, this like earthy browny red, and this like deep blue. Bringing ideas to life when they're just in your mind is something so kind of difficult, but also very fun. Guys, it is 8th of January today, Wednesday morning, and I woke up early because for the past few days I've just been feeling this sense of like time closing in and just like feeling like I haven't been having enough time. I don't know, sometimes I get in these phases where I feel like I have so much I want to do and so much I feel called to, and time feels scarce because I'm like, I have so much I want to do and I want to do it now and I want to do it all and I want to do it good. And I'm just like, I need a clone of myself because how am I meant to get all of this stuff done? So this morning I was like, right, let's wake up early. I woke up at 5:30 and stretched and meditated, and I had assigned myself to go for a run this morning, but I woke up and I was like, actually, I don't feel like that. I feel like just doing this. And so I just watered the garden and then came and sat outside, made myself a cacao, and I've just been journaling and playing my little instrument in the sunshine. I don't really know how to play this, but I just play it. I feel like it's just hearing the vibrations and being outside, playing outside, and like the expansiveness when there's the birds and the insects and everything else going on as well. It feels so nice. But anyway, I just turned on the camera because I was like, I feel like this is a moment. This is a moment to me right now because it feels like for the past few days I've been like this, in this sort of like tunnel, and it feels like I'm in like an opening right now, and I'm like, oh, right. This is what it's about. And so just came on here to remind myself and remind you maybe that if you feel like there's not enough time to do things, like there's so much you want to do, like just take a moment, go outside. And just going outside for me is always such a reminder that we have time. Like everything happens as it should. I feel like I always come back to that reminder to tell myself, because I just feel like I exist at this baseline of like a lot of energy, a lot of things I want to do, a lot of things I want to create. I think I've also just been rebalancing and finding my feet working full-time doing creative work, because it takes a lot of energy and a different kind of energy to what, say, I experienced before when I was working in an office, working in architecture. It's a completely different way of working, and I find creative work a lot more fulfilling and also a lot more exhausting, because you're constantly like sourcing things and getting inspiration, and then it's in you and it's taking shape, and then you bring it to life, and you're literally like birthing something every time you create something, and it's draining. And I feel like we need to give ourselves time as creatives to just sit in the expansiveness and the spaciousness and just be amongst it, because A, this is where so much inspiration comes from, and B, this is just like innate to our humanity to just rest and take things slow, be calm, be quiet, and it's so healing. It's so healing. I feel myself getting charged up for the rest of my day, and I feel like life is always just about finding that balance and, you know, shifting, changing, moving, just readjusting, seeing how you feel. I might not know where to go.
Like on the boat.
Dig. Cut that. Ooh.
I had so many beautiful moments of quality time with my friend Amber in January. It was so beautiful being fully immersed in these moments together, because we'd both been traveling a lot throughout the year and hadn't had proper catch-ups in a while. I always leave these kinds of heart-to-heart interactions feeling so fulfilled and at ease. Love is always a precious reminder that everything will be okay.
Oh.
We're making pasta, and I'm making pesto. This is our starter, focaccia, which I made yesterday.
Dude, that's so fucking good.
It's so good, isn't it?
I want my wine.
Oh yes, your wine, your alcohol-free wine.
My alcohol-free wine.
It's good?
I feel like I can't eat it fast enough, but I want to enjoy it.
It rained a lot in January, and I think that the weather has a way of connecting to our emotions. These rainy days felt so cleansing and rejuvenating. It was like the grey sky was whispering to me, telling me to slow down and rest. I spent a lot of time sitting at my desk with my candles lit, and instead of forcing myself to be conventionally productive and tick things off my to-do list, I listened to the voice within and found myself longing for space to dream and wonder. Every part of my being was longing for something expansive, a gaze out the window, a gaze into a flame, a gaze out at the horizon or into the depth of darkness behind my eyelids. When I gave into this, I felt so much more balanced and at ease. Sometimes a girl really does just need to dream. I woke up this morning, it was raining so much, and I got so excited because I love swimming in the rain, and it's not cold at the moment, it's still like 23 degrees, which is relatively warm. So I was like, you know what, I need to go for a swim. So I hopped in my car. First I made myself a cacao, which I have here, hot cacao with honey and oat milk. And I've pulled up like right in front of the beach, and I've got my journal, and the car is like a portable, it's a shelter, so I'm dry. I'm not outside in the rain, which feels so cozy and comforting. And there's this like layer of anonymity because the raindrops are like kind of making the view through my windows a little bit distorted. So I feel like I'm in a bit of a secret bubble sitting here. Even though there's quite a few people walking around, I'm like, nobody knows I'm here. It feels so good. And I'm just sitting here doing my morning journaling. And then I'm gonna jump in the ocean, and it feels like exactly what my body wants right now. And I'm just so excited to get in the water. I feel like it's gonna feel like a blanket. I just did my morning pages and I started writing about how this morning when I was driving I saw these two birds on this power line, and it was such a beautiful moment. I think sometimes I see things and I see them in like a very framed view, almost like a shot or a photo or a painting or something, and there were these two birds like huddled together and they were like bent over, so I could only see like their tails pointing up, and I was like, what are those two birds doing? And then I saw again and they like turned upright and they were just like hunched together on this power line and the cloudy overcast sky behind. As I drove and turned, I looked back in my rearview mirror and I saw them fly off together, and I was like, that was such a beautiful moment. And in my journal this morning I was writing about how we often see these little moments, these really fleeting things in nature usually, or sometimes when we're like people watching and you're just observing the world around you. And I think that often I see little moments like that and I think to myself, wow, that felt like such a private moment, such an intimate moment between me and the world. Like I don't think, like I was the only one that saw that moment just in that second, the way that I saw it and experienced it the way that I experienced it. And then I was like, that's kind of just like a reflection of life in general and our experience of life, how we're all experiencing the world through our own unique lens. We're all seeing things in a different light, and we're all having such a private experience with life. It's all so intimate and personal, private. So I was journaling about that, and I said, only I saw that, only I felt that. I suppose this is the nature of existence, though. We experience every moment as private. Through the impenetrable fortress of our imagination, everyone sees the world in a different light. Everyone has a private show of life unfolding before their eyes. Art is our attempt to share our view. We witness and we create. We hope people buy tickets to our show. So yeah, I feel like we experience things, we see things, and then we create art. We're like, oh, I want to capture that. I want to translate that feeling, that experience, that sight into art. And writing, film, photography, theatre, all art forms are ways to express what we experience, what we feel. And it's so beautiful that through art we get to offer glimpses of like our souls to the world and to other people, and how people can resonate and relate because we can be attuned to like a similar frequency and be on a similar wavelength of the way that we perceive things, the way that we witness the world, and that's always really beautiful when you can offer a glimpse that somebody else can relate to, because that fosters a feeling of togetherness, I think, and is like the opposite of feeling isolated and alone. When you realize that you're not alone in your experience and you're not alone in the way that you see the world, because I think that that's how I spent a lot of my adolescence. I just felt so alone in my experience of witnessing the world, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, I always felt very overwhelmed and like, am I the only one that's seeing things in this way? Even if it wasn't like a conscious thought at the time, I think it's something that I just had this feeling of inner isolation. Even if I wasn't alone, I had friends, but I just felt different. And listening to Alt J this morning, I think, is stirring all these thoughts as well, because I used to listen to Alt J and like indie music a lot in my teenage days, and it's taken me back. It's taken me back. like I miss having a bit more of a structure with exercising, with working out in my mornings. I think now that I'm working for myself, my schedule can be so much more flexible and fluid, which I love, but I also kind of miss like getting up and having a time that I need to be like at work, say, and I want to have like a little sprinkle more of that in my life. So I've signed up to a gym and I went this morning and it was so good. I booked in for a 6 a.m. class and I was like, oh my God, why have I done this to myself? But once I got there and started exercising and doing the class, I was like, no, this is so good and I want to do this more often. And whenever I exercise in the morning, I just feel so much more focused and disciplined throughout the rest of my day. And I want to have more of that energy in my life at the moment. So I'm feeling good, and I'm also excited because it's a new gym that I've never been to before, which means I can birth like a whole new routine around this one thing, because next to the gym there's a cafe and I'm like, wow, now I can go to the gym and then I could have a shower and there's also saunas and ice baths at the gym, so I'm like I could work out at 6 and then I could have a sauna if I want and have a shower and ice bath, and then I could go to the cafe and sit down and have coffee and do some work. And I'm just feeling like this sense of renewal, which feels really nice. I love this feeling, especially living in Byron, being in a small town. I'm like, yes, new things come to me, new routines enter my life. Starting these CrossFit classes in January honestly had such a positive effect on my state of mind. I got into a rhythm of going to morning classes and I really enjoyed being a beginner again, because although I've been going to the gym on and off for years, I've never done this sort of weightlifting before. I found it so refreshing for my focus to be on learning new movements and skills rather than my focus just being on work and things I wanted to create. I also started spending more time in the garden. I cleared out a section of the garden bed and planted tomato seedlings, which had been slowly growing in trays over the weeks prior. It's always so satisfying when you plant a seed and you watch it grow into a little seedling, and then you get to plant it in the garden and watch it grow into an even bigger plant and then eventually get vegetables from it. Between going to the gym and gardening, I felt like I was getting such a healthy flow of dopamine away from my screen, and it just felt like I had invited a lot more balance into life. By the time the end of the month came around, I started feeling a little drained and found myself craving silence and solitude. So it was time to go on a solo camping trip. I created a video solely about this experience, so if you're in the mood for a calming and invigorating watch, head there. But this experience was honestly so beautiful, calming, healing, and refreshing. I'd been on a couple of solo camping trips before, but I think that this was the best trip that I'd ever had. I just felt so at peace and at ease for the whole time, and I felt like I really gave myself permission and just allowed myself to be fully present. I didn't feel like I had any expectations or any pressures, whereas I think that in the past, a lot of the time, I felt this external pressure from society, I think, to be productive and to get things done and to operate on this like never-ending turning wheel, which I think is just really unsustainable. And I think that we really need these moments of rest and time in nature, especially when we're doing creative work. So I'm really glad that I gave myself this time to go on this trip. Oops. I did most of these things that I set out to do in January, some of them not, but I feel like it's rare that I set myself intentions and do everything, because I always tend to overplan things for myself, so I always know that I'm Probably not going to do everything, but I'm really, really satisfied and proud of myself for the things that I did do this month. I set out to do so much in January. I'm not surprised that I ended up feeling a little bit kind of burnt out by the end and needed to go away. I feel like January's been a real month of like paving like ground for myself to walk on for the coming months. And now it is February, and I'm gonna write myself a list like this for February. It's very satisfying to me having like my intentions for the month on a piece of paper written like this. It just works nicely for my brain when they're just like spread out around a page. There's no real order. It's just like, yeah, maybe I'll do that. I'm gonna write a list like this now, like a little mind map for February of my intentions and things that I want to do, experience, feel in February.